Good evening, fellow ghouls and specters alike. It's your ghost host with the most tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive, here to engage in some haunted holiday hijinks by trudging through the catacombs and dusting off the cobwebs as we recount a spooky selection of Halloween classics.
So light the jack-o'-lantern, suit up, and grab the candy dish as we revive and recount this season's final selection, The Addams Family 1991.
Laugh with me, Freakazoid, laugh with me.
Whoa!
Good show, old man.
That's right, Dragon. It's past midnight on the East Coast, which means it's officially Halloween.
This is Halloween.
This is Halloween, indeed. And folks, it was we had some contenders for the final slot. Of course, we take our final slot seriously here. And really what won out was just the lasting legacy of these characters and the fact that the film we're about to talk about just does them so good. Like this is like the blue meth of the Addams Family, Dragon.
Well, I would say it's the nostalgic blue meth for sure. I'd say I think this movie is a very nostalgic.
It's not a perfect movie. It's
No,
not a perfect movie,
not at all.
but I would say it's a perfect representation of the characters in the world.
Yes,
Like just the atmosphere, the performances, the set design, the costumes, the makeup, just everything. It's on that level. On that level, you can't beat it.
I'd agree.
Does this movie have some plot issues? Absolutely, and we'll get into them with the conversation. It's got some pretty major plot
As
issues.
many as the second movie, not so much.
Dragon, so I'm curious, was your first introduction to the Addams Family via the movies?
Well, it's mainly the movies, but it's the movies and the one Scooby Doo crossover. That's about it.
Yes, yes, I had a feeling the Scooby-Doo one would be brought up.
Like I think like the first like time I've ever seen the Addams Family, but not really knowing who they were, was the opening of Scooby Doo, the new movies of Scooby Doo. And I keep blanking on the I keep
The new Scooby-Doo
yes, the new
movies.
Scooby Doo movies. Yes, like that was the first
Uh,
time I saw like what the Addams Family were, and then of course I watched the episode, then I saw the movie, and basically I pretty much forgot the episode. The movie was pretty much what I'm saying is the movie was really my first like introduction to the characters, like knowing what the deal is with them, and just kind of getting the gist of it. I never watched the animated show, but yeah, that was my first real introduction to
yeah,
the
I
Addams Family.
vaguely remember the animated show on Cartoon Network, like early morning Cartoon Network affair back in the 90s.
Yeah,
Dragon, I have one question to pose to you.
what do you got?
Addams Family or Munsters?
Well, here's
Just looking at it not in terms of the overall IP, but in terms of the actual sitcoms themselves.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. For looking at the shows, I barely watched any of the Addams Family, so I would have to say Munsters, given that choice. However, the irony is that the Addams Family came first. That's the greater irony.
Okay, here's the deal. I think The Munsters is a far better show, but I think The Munsters is just mundanity, like at its finest, Dragon. It's just like I love that show. I love the premise of that show. The whole idea of the niece being like this perfect American girl that the monsters take pity on and think she's
Yeah,
like a wretched creature.
yeah.
Like I love all that, Dragon. I love the monster setup. I love what they do with it. I love how it's basically a subversion of the classic kind of Leave It to Beaver kind of sitcom.
Hmm.
Uh, I wish that the Munsters had the same kind of pop culture notoriety that the Addams Family does.
I don't know. The Munsters have the car. I mean, the car, and like a certain. I don't know. There's a lot. I think the Munsters might have a little bit more stay power than the Addams Family. I don't know. I think it has more stay power than you're giving it credit for, at least. I think.
Well, I just think what hits home with the Addams Family though is just the amount of concepts at play, like just how out of the ordinary the Addams Family is. Because basically, The Munsters is a classic sitcom, but the Addams Family, there's a lot more world building going on in the Addams Family.
Yeah. I think the Addams Family is more iconic, where the Munsters are. Basically, the Munsters have the same. Again, this is very much because they were in the same period of time. They're very much kind of the '60s Batman era. Only they haven't had a major, at least a resurgence that's really taken. Like a '60s Batman is
Dragon,
back in
now I want to see Supernatural crossover with Herman Monster.
Herman Munster.
Herman Munster.
My mother actually met Herman Munster. She met Fred Gwynn when he was in the hospital once. Funny. Of course, also
I
big.
could just be D&D like, oh my god, it's Herman Munster.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Tika, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think like the '60s Batman's come back in a big way, with the comics, which of course has led to the animated things, and just in general, like people have they've really changed their minds on '60s Batman. I feel the Munsters, like they've tried to come back a couple times, and I feel short of like a big resurgence that takes like that. That's the reason the Munsters hasn't really indoctrinated itself. But I think the Addams Family is the long lasting IP. It has like all these iconic things. The butler who looks like a Frankenstein. You got like the hand. You have like, again, people will cite the children as examples. If like in pop culture, people making fun of children for the way they look here, they're going to cite the Addams Family. And I think the king reason of why the Addams Family was going to be more iconic than the Munsters at the end of the day is it's the theme song. At the end of the day, it's the theme song. That's what's going to keep it around for years and years.
Not to dismiss the Munsters theme song though. The Munsters theme song has this really groovy like '50s surf guitar riff.
It does, and that's the tragedy, Tiki, is that the tragedy of it all is that, don't get me wrong, they're both excellent songs, but they're both excellent themes. But again, Addams Family is iconic, especially around Halloween. Hence, one part of the reason we're doing this. When you think. You hear that all over the place when Halloween rolls around. You hear the Addams Family theme, and it's like, yeah, that's it. It's just it fits the macabre and dark nature of Halloween. Monsters is like, yeah, I mean, if you know that theme in the back of your mind, but you got to figure it out. Addams Family was like, yeah, it's the Addams Family music.
All right, so Dragon, you want to give us a little bit of background on this before we dive into the commentary?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so here's the backstory in the Addams Family movie in a nutshell. So, of course, the Addams Family is a property. It was created by Charles Addams. Charles Addams, I believe, was a comic strip going back to 1938. Basically, it was like a family circus, like a single panel strip comic. I'm pretty sure that's how it was laid out. Like basically, like these little artful kind of satirical comic strip that was put out, and basically it's like kind of like they're doing these mundane family activities, but there's a great kind of macabre darkness about it. That was the age old kind of like appeal of the Addams Family. So of course in '64 it gets a TV series that was kind of during that whole Batman and the arms race of the Munsters versus the Addams Family in '64. Let's see, you have the original Hanna-Barbera show in '73, and I believe they brought it back at a certain point in the '90s, capitalizing off the success of the movie. We have the two Barry Sonnenfeld movies that we're going to be, the first of which we're going to be talking about tonight. And last I heard, they're working on a computer-generated animated film for 2019, bringing the Addams
Yeah,
back.
I'm excited about that one. That's kind of like one of the wild card 2019 animated films. Could go either way.
I really want to see a trailer for it because the voice cast sounds very interesting. Oscar Isaacs is going to be playing Gomez. The one thing that has me a little trepidatious, and again, bear in mind, it's just because I don't have a lot of. I've never gotten used to the Addams Family original designs, like like from the comic strip and from the animated series, like the animated look of the Addams Family, because I'm so used to the movie. It looks really weird. And I wonder how it's going to look when animated in CG. That's the thing I'm really that's the one trepidation I have. Like, that's why I got to see a trailer for it. Anyway, so getting back to this movie. So the story really begins here. So they had some Fox executives and Scott Rubin, one of I believe an executive producer and a writer. I believe maybe not writers. He's a producer in the business. So the point is, like, these Fox executives and this Rubin guy, they're in a van after a screening of a movie. They're watching like some screenings of some movies. On the way home, as they're driving back, I believe one of the executives brought a kid, and the kid started to sing the Addams Family song. and it just was so catchy. The whole car broke out in song, like singing. They knew every word of the Addams Family song. It's like da 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 da, the creepy and ookie, that whole thing. They're going through the whole song. It was so infectious, and they're having so much fun in the car ride. They basically, I think it was Ruben. Someone had the idea of like, yeah, let's. Why don't we do a movie on this? I mean, everybody loves the Addams Family. Why haven't we not? Why have we not done a theatrical movie based on the Addams Family? So now there was a studio called. Now, Tiki, you're familiar with Orion Studios, right?
Vaguely.
So, folks, a lot of the classic movies you remember from your youth, particularly some of the big hits from the '80s, there was this studio called Orion. Like Orion's behind films like RoboCop, behind Silence of the Lambs, like very iconic movies. Orion, Ryan, also a lot of the all if not most of the Rodney Dangerfield movies, like Easy Money and Back to School. I believe they were Orion pictures. At the very least, Back to School, Easy Money had to be an Orion movie. So, Orion. Orion was this movie studio that very infamously they had such great movies under their labels, yet they were always fledgling for money. It was like a more classy version of Canon Pictures. Canon Pictures was like a very low rent studio that kept their head above water by getting like Superman 4, and then of course it bombed spectacularly. And they made horrible choices, but Orion was the classy version of Canon Pictures. And anyway, so they were so Orion had the rights. So if Fox wants to make a movie, Orion has the rights, and Orion at that moment were planning on rebooting the Addams Family TV series. That was their plan. But as I mentioned, Orion Studios, they were struggling financially. Even like in '91, little did they know they would win an Oscar for Silence of the Lambs. Even that wouldn't save them. Eventually, they were going to go under. So while they're fledgling money, the Addams Family bringing it to theaters is a big risk. And they realize, and here's the big risk. Here's why Orion sells the film rights. They sell the film rights. They don't make the end movie because there was a big fear that the Munsters, so ironically, that the Munsters have stolen the Addams Family's thunder because of Munster Mania. Because everybody loved the Munsters, and it's like the Addams Family again got outshined by the Munsters, despite the fact that the Addams Family again they came to like nine.
And you know what? I think the movie almost single-handedly turned the tide.
That's the thing, and so that's why there was a lot of fear. Again, Orion's already like losing a lot of money right now, and they're basically like they're just gambling on whether their next movies are going to be, and basically like they're keeping afloat by the success of they're living movie to movie is what I'm saying. So they sell the Addams Family rights to Paramount, and I think broadly it's MGM. Like eventually it would fall to MGM for it's like a distribution deal. So it's Paramount, mainly Paramount and MGM retroactively. So. This change, it's basically selling off the rights. It causes a lot of reshoots and rewrites because Orion began to work on the movie, and they sell the rights like midway or like while it's being produced, like while it's being filmed. So like the film is being made, and then like okay, big major kind of shift in studios here, so we got to go to a different, like the property's changing hands. There's some creative things are being changed, so they have a lot of reshoots and a lot of rewrites, which puts them $5 million over budget and really puts a lot of stress on the production. Like the movie was $25 million and then it gets to $30 million. And again, this is a movie that's already financially, it's a really risky gamble for a lot of people. Again, that Monster Mania really put a lot of doubt in everybody's mind. So they try to get Tim Burton on the movie. Tim Burton, he passed on the movie. I don't know because he thought it was too easy. Like, come on, guys, I'm Tim Burton. Like people are just gonna say, oh, of course he did that movie. I don't want to do that. I don't know if that was the reason.
That would be what would eventually probably. I feel like people still think Tim Burton did the Addams Family.
But the funny thing is, and I can't substantiate this, Steve, but just going by the years, he most likely is judging by the years of productions on these movies. He either passed the Addams Family up to work on either Edward Scissorhands or Batman Returns. I think it was Batman Returns because that came out in '92.
Both like two of the ballsiest movies of his career, by the way.
The point is, like, those are the two movies he was either finishing up Scissorhands or he was about to get on Batman Returns. I believe that's where the point is. He was one of those two movies. What he did instead of this movie, so Burton did well for himself. Is what I'm saying.
You know what's ironic though is that like I feel like the downfall of his career was defined by like, oh, of course Tim Burton would make that. You know what I mean? Like it started with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like, oh, that's a good fit. But then it got to like, oh, of course Tim Burton's gonna do Sweeney Todd, or of course Tim Burton's going to do Dark Shadows, obviously.
I think Returns was the slow beginning of that because Returns had like the Burton-isms in the movie, and then basically those Burton-isms
I
kind
feel
of
like
bloomed.
Alice in Wonderland though was the apex. Like Alice in Wonderland was when the floodgates opened.
I'm saying Alice in Wonderland's the punchline, Tiki. I'm saying I think Batman Returns is where the joke, like the seed is planted in Batman Returns, and then it explodes when we get to Alice in Wonderland. Like, yeah, Burton's a punchline now.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so again, Burton passes, and then it goes to Barry Sonnenfeld. Now, Barry Sonnenfeld had a very interesting career in it.
I
This was
miss
his.
this guy, man.
He's still around, Tiki. He's doing Series of Unfortunate Events.
Yeah, I know, but I just want him to do movies again.
Well, I remember he had a kind of a stinker a few years ago, and I wonder if that scared him off it completely or not because he did the RV movie with Robin Williams, which it's kind of, let's just say it's dicey. It's
You know what? That movie's probably like a sentimental classic in retrospect with the Robin Williams thing.
I mean, yeah, Robin Williams was fun in it, but by the same token, I used to like that movie, and I rewatched it. Oh my god, well, I don't know what I was thinking. This movie does not hold up at all.
Oh man, it's that bad.
It's like one of those. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean,
Is it like Wild Hogs bad?
Tiki, I think that's the perfect compare. It is kind of a Wild Hogs thing where you watch it that first time, you give it a pass, and then you rewatch. Like, oh my god, what was I thinking? But okay, so the point is RV. The guy, I think that's the last one I can recall him theatrically. He might have had others. I'm just saying that's the last big one I remember with Barry Son. Oh wait, no, the last one he did was Men in Black 3, which is really good.
Men in Black 3 was damn good, man.
Now, I really like Men in Black 3
trilogy.
So I redact my whole RV statement. The point is he's had some flops, but he's also had some really good. He's had a good comeback, and I guess he's just been working on Series of Unfortunate Events in the meantime. So yeah, you're right, Tiki. We should give Barry. I'm all for giving Sonnenfeld another chance. So the funny thing with Sonnenfeld, Tiki. Of course, I believe Sonnenfeld, he really got his bones after Addams Family with The Tick, and of course, Men in Black and then The Tick. Like, those are the next two big things that he did. Then Get Shorty, and then basically it goes on from there. So Barry Sonnenfeld, he worked as I believe he was, he had a smaller job in the industry. He was, if not, he was either a DP or, I think he was I'm pretty sure he was a DP on movies. And basically, Addams Family was Barry Sonnenfeld's first directing job, but his first time directing a movie. So the point is so they have this gamble of movie. They have Barry Sonnenfeld. It's his first time, but he's worked in the industry before. Like, people have seen Barry Sonnenfeld. Like, hey, it's Sonnenfeld. Let's get him on. Let's bump him up. It's like how Tim Miller got his start in the Deadpool movie. It's like, and he was just around. He was the effects guy. He ran effects. He had the studio and everything. So. The writers, they had Caroline Thompson, who again, they had a lot of Burton talent, which suggests they were really hoping that Burton was going to say yes to the movie. They had Caroline Thomas, who worked on Nightmare Before Christmas and Edward Scissorhands. They had Larry Wilson, who worked on Beetlejuice and Tales from the Crypt. And they had Paul Rudnick. Paul Rudnick, he really worked. I believe he got promoted to head writer with Addams Family Values, and I think you can kind of see Rudnick wasn't one of the main writers on this, but he was like, he touched it up in places. And I think my theory is that Act 3 of this movie is mainly Rudnick's idea, because I think Act 3 of this movie is what Addams Family Values turns into for the whole movie, for at least half the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. I could see that.
And we'll get into that when we get into the comments. We're almost done here. The last just basically getting to like the end result, what happened here. So again, importantly, the mantra through this whole movie is they were aiming for to honor the Charles Addams comic strip before the series. They weren't trying to do the Addams Family TV series. Don't get me wrong; they threw a few bones here and there, but they primarily, if it came down to it, was going to be, let's go for what feels true to the strip before it feels true to the TV series. That distinguish ourselves away from that, because everybody knows the TV series. We got to do something kind of different, something people don't know like the back of their hand, something people can't just like get for free on TV. At that time. So let's see. So there was a lawsuit from the producer of the TV series, David Levy. Now, David Levy, he basically, he was one of the show, he was the producer on the TV series, and he claimed credit for a lot of the iconic things from the Addams Family TV series that we kind of know from, they're kind of like hallmarks of the Addams Family, like Gomez and Morticia doing the tango. Cousin It and Thing, our beloved hand character Thing. So basically, they had to settle something with him to get credit. They basically work all those characters in there because, again, they had to have some. There are a lot of little, very subtle homages to the TV series throughout this, but subtle being the operative word. So, One last thing, this is important. This is like a big kind of like cheer for Sonnenfeld moment here. So Sonnenfeld, during the production of the movie, again, Tiki, this is a very troubled production. Sonnenfeld's one of those directors where he will take on a troubled production and he'll be the MVP of it because he's had heart attacks on the job, man. This guy, he's a director's director. He's a brave man in the directing chair. I can't tell you how amazing Barry Sonnenfeld can be in the directing chair. Sonnenfeld, he had to step in as the cinematographer for this movie. Again, he's had experience as a DP and working a little bit in cinematography in his early career because one of the cinematography guys had to quit. He quit, and then the other guy had to be hospitalized. So basically, they were without cinematography, and that's a really big job in the movie, obviously. And if that guy goes, they're going to have no one there, and the movie would have been in great jeopardy. So Sonnenfeld, he just took that on while he's directing this movie, and there's some pressure from the studio. So he's juggling all those bowling balls right now. And in the end, it was released against Hook, which they thought was going to bury him. It was released against Hook. Robin Williams, Peter Pan, Steven Spielberg, three very big names. And in the end, it did tremendously well in the box office. Tiki, I mean, wow! It did like gangbusters for a $30 million budget. And I know it's like you match the numbers now and see inflation, everything's going to be even more impressive now. But think about this, Tiki. Just to put it simply, for a $30 million budget, they made $195 million worldwide. Pretty impressive, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, yeah, of course, a lot of success, and the best-selling pinball machine. You've apparently has this record for the best-selling pinball machine based on a movie ever, too. By the way, a little fun fact. Okay, that's all the background. Let's just jump right in.
All right, Dragon. Maybe in the future, tone down the background so it doesn't take 20 minutes to get to the commentary, perhaps.
All right.
All right. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude. It's a little too much there. But okay, folks. So the way we work this is we try and have an even conversation that doesn't rely on you having seen the movie to get the conversation. But if you want to watch along just to be safe, go ahead and get your copy of the movie, queue it up to timestamp 00. Again, we're going to try and do it very conversationally, but it might help to have the movie in front of you. And I will go ahead and count up to 3 and say go. When I say go, that's your cue to snap your fingers and turn on the movie. All right, Dragon, ready for this?
Yeah.
All right. Addams Family, 1991, in 1, 2, 3, go. So this very Halloweeny movie, Dragon, this classic staple of Halloween, how does it start?
With Christmas, of course. I love how we kind of bookend the holidays in this movie. We start with Christmas and we end with very appropriately Halloween, which of course is another reason we picked Addams Family for. What?
Oh, I'm just saying I need to mute my copy.
All right.
Got to mute my copy. Go ahead.
Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of cool, like how full circle we kind of do like a long Halloween with the holidays here. So we kind of start with Christmas, and I feel it's kind of this. It's based that again they did a few pulls here that were direct adaptations from the Charles Addams comic strip, and like one of the opening here, ending with this macabre shot of the family pouring some ungodly liquid down on some carolers. That's from the comic. And it's a perfect tone setter for what the movie's going to be. It's going to be kind of very linking with the kind of this. It's a family movie, hence the whole starting with Christmas. It's a family holiday. Yet, while we're doing that, we're showing there's a great macabre element to this wholesome family movie because it is really about family. The Addams Family has the family dynamic the world wants to have, but there's still like a lot of morbid, really dark stuff there at the same time.
Dragon, I gotta say I'm a little worried about the commentary here because I seem to be kind of lagging.
Right now we're in the credits here with the cursive.
Okay, well I just got to the credits.
All right, well,
Christina's name popped up. How far up behind am I?
2-minute mark right now.
Okay, I'm like 20 seconds behind you, man. I don't know. This might have been better suited as a discussion, but it's too late to go back now.
Anyway,
I don't know what to tell you, man. My computer's really
a little fun fact about it's funny. I remember this from the Men in Black commentaries on the bonus features on the Men in Black DVDs. Barry Sonnenfeld, he loves to do like this cursive commentary he can write on the screen, and I know this is Barry Sonnenfeld's handwriting on these opening credits because it's the same exact cursive that he would do when he does a little writing effect on those commentaries. So I recognize it rewatching this years later, like, oh my God, Barry Sonnenfeld, he's a little personal touch there with the signature under his name right there, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. Must be like a signature, a literal signature of this. What do you know?
okay. What's your timestamp right now?
It's 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Dragon, I don't know if this is going to work, buddy.
Why don't you just get to the...
What we might have to do is we might have to just make this an impromptu discussion instead of commentary, because I don't know. Our backs are kind of up against the wall time-wise here. I mean, I'm saying I just think it's going to continue to lag on my end.
Well, okay, fine. Hey, how's this sound? All right, I'll let it play. I'll just kind of lead us kind of chronologically through the movie. How's that sound?
I guess. I mean, I'm saying there's really no way I'm going to be able to keep up with this, man. I should have tested this out before, but here's the thing, Dragon. I've been watching stuff while we've been doing the shows before, but I've been like doing that to like keep reference on it, like to basically take notes and use the closed captions. I haven't streamed something while we've been watching these shows on the new laptop, like just fully. I haven't tried this out yet, so that's my bad, and I don't think we're gonna get anywhere with it. So personally, I would just switch this over to an impromptu instead of making it a commentary, but I don't know. We're on air right now, so obviously, so. And frankly, we don't really have time to go back and like do another take too. That's the other problem. It's like whatever we do, it has to be on this show, and we have to come up with it fast.
Great, just yeah.
Okay, I tell you what. Let me you keep up with the commentary. Let me make a format in the chat, okay?
All right. So, well, something we got to address right off the bat here is Raul Julia he is a godsend to this movie. I can't get enough of Raul Julia in this movie. His performance in Gomez summarizes my favorite element of this movie. Rewatching it is, I knew this was in the movie. I knew kind of the Gomez Morticia relationship, but I completely forgot like how much of a gem Raul Julia is here, because he makes this movie for me. He sells the tone, like the wacky melodrama of it all. Like again, the whole movie's about like the family that works better than any other family dynamic. But again, it's like it's macabre. It's like practically it's the Manson family, but it's like a loving Manson family. That's kind of the best way of putting it. These guys, again, they're serial killers and they're psychos, and they don't get it. But again, they're delightful though, and they love each other. And Gomez here, he's the patriarch of this family, and again, he's passionate in everything. Like, I think the best way of summarizing, Raul Julia's take on Gomez is that he's sort of this this amalgam of like a Doug Fairbanks Jr. He's like Doug Fairbanks. He's like a macabre version of Doug Fairbanks Jr. That's kind of what he is. It's like this energy attached to like this old school. Like he speaks. I use the Doug Fairbanks Jr. Comparison because he's very much like the whole like, good show, old man. He feels like a man from the 30s, and I dig it, man. I think it's just it's so wonderful, and he's he's so he's so wrapped up in it. His eyes are communicating so much, and it just has that energy about him throughout the whole movie. Like he's flipping people over, he's fencing. Again, it's like a Zorro outside of the Cape, pretty much, and it's delightful.
All right, Dragon, this is actually a good transitioning point into the format I literally just came up with. Take a look at the chat and tell me if this is something we can work with.
We're gonna have to work with it regardless. So I guess let's
Okay,
go.
so I'm terribly sorry, folks, not to get your hopes up, but this will not be a commentary. Dragon, I don't know if we'll be able to do commentaries for the near future. Just a little heads up on that. I've been having some issues streaming on my phone too, so I don't know. I have to get that looked at. I'm actually going to the cell phone store to because you see, if I didn't have the phone issue, then this wouldn't be a problem. I'd just be like, oh, okay, I can just pull it up on my phone. But working with what we're working with, and we're just gonna have to do a discussion. So, folks, basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through all the characters. Dragon, you know what I mean when I say villains, right?
Yeah.
Okay, basically the two antagonists of the movie. Okay. All right. So, Dragon, you've made an excellent thesis on how good Gomez, Raul Julia is as Gomez, and it's just a shame that Raul Julia,
He died
he's
very
last.
young, folks. He died after Adams. He died after Adams Family Values, but right after that movie, the last thing he did, and I love how fondly he reflects on this. The last thing he did was Street Fighter.
So he had a fun time with Street Fighter.
Yeah, he did it for his kids. Tiki, that's the thing. Raul Julia, I did
Okay,
some
you know
research
what?
on.
That's all that counts then. That's all that counts because I think Gomez just a perfect role for him, and then he had to. The way I view it is like, oh, he had such a good role on as Gomez, and then he had to mess it all up with Street Fighter. But you
Here's
know
the
what? If you have time with it, then that's great. That's great.
I mean, here's the thing, Tiki. Raul Julia is such a again. I don't mean he's just a godsend in the role. I mean, he's a godsend as an actor. I learned about this guy. I grew to love him even more so because the guy, he was a Puerto Rican actor and he set up like funds and everything after his passing for for other Puerto Rican actors. He's very he was a guy who supported his craft. I guess I've seen him do some interviews about even Addams Family Values, saying like, "Oh yeah, man, he loved being Gomez, and even with again, he loved the over the top roles. That was his bread and butter, and he loved doing it. His kids, he basically he did Street Fighter to bond with his children who loved video games. That's why he did that movie." And he was sick as a dog during that movie. He was really sick with eventually what claimed his life. And again, he showed up to work and he was working like they were planning on doing a sequel to that movie, and he was all gung ho about doing it. But again, he died so young. But he brought it. And I heard this beautiful story of Raul Julia. I heard that Raul Julia he would be recognized all the time as Gomez, and I heard that it would bring such a smile to his face. Like he loved being recognized as Gomez, and it just brought him such delight. This is a guy who just loved what he did, and you can see it
And
in
I really
what
do
he
think he's
does.
like the definitive Gomez Adams.
I mean, he's my favorite element of this whole movie. I mean, he and Christopher Lloyd, they're dynamic, the whole brotherly story they have. But again, just like I don't want to glaze over this before we get a little impromptu. So forgive me if I'm a little scattered on this. So
Of course, of course.
the main thing I gotta stress with Gomez, my favorite thing rewatching, I completely forgot about that really just made me fall in love with the movie again is I love in scenes like earlier in the movie, like this arc that Gomez has. Gomez has a fantastic arc throughout this movie where he we have an understated side of Gomez that I don't think ordinarily we would get where they retroactively they change certain details again from the TV series, and I think are really smart choices that at least I don't know how like deep diehard Addams fans feel about it, but I really like these changes. Like originally, Fester is not Gomez's brother traditionally in the Addams family. They made that choice for this movie, and I think that choice again is the backbone of everything that Gomez goes through. It's a guy at the start of this movie is Gomez looking at that room and thing walking up to him, things like his right hand man, things practically his Alfred, despite the fact that Lurch is literally the Alfred figure for the Addams family. Like things come up to him, he's like has this great little monologue to things saying, "Oh, my brother's been gone for 25 years, and I don't think he's in." Even if he's in the afterlife, he's looking at his empty brother's room he hasn't seen for 25 years, like a little tongue-in-cheek reference to the fact that the Addams family hasn't been around for 25 years, and that's when the movie came out 25 years after the show ended. So I mean, all of that, just this great this. It's a simple story at the end of the day. It's a story about a man who misses his brother, and his brother is returned to him, and there's some betrayal in there. But at the end of the day, it's that love for his brother, even if it's a memory of his brother. You know, just that love and that passion. Like, that man is living a charmed life with that one missing piece, and by the end of the movie, he gets that piece back.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, such good things to say about Raul Julia in the role. I mean, like I said, he's the definitive version of the character in my mind. You can't do Gomez Addams better. Dragon, I gotta say, in that production of the Addams Family that I saw, just to kind of preface some of the other things I'll be saying about it, uh, Gomez and Morticia, I just think it's the fact that this movie nailed the casting on these characters so well. Like, they were fine actors playing those roles. You know what I mean? Fine actor is Gomez, fine actress is Morticia. They didn't hold a candle, man. I mean, obviously, I'm not expecting them to hold a candle, but like I swear to God, Dragon, like, not to dismiss these people, but it just, like, and there were exceptions. Like, I thought the Fester, it was a very different take on Fester, a very interesting take on Fester in the show. Wednesday in particular, I thought the actress playing Wednesday maybe better than Christina Ricci, dare I say. But I don't know, man. Just those two leads of Gomez and Morticia, you need to have a pivotal. It's almost a necessity to have just an all-star cast in there for those two roles. All right.
So I guess we should talk about Gomez's other half, right?
Yes, yes. Talk about relationship goals, Dragon.
So the Addams Family as a property, but especially in this movie, the movie will crumble and fall to pieces. I know you need a family element; that's very important. But I think at the end of the day, if the relationship of this movie does not work, it's like the original Superman movie. If you don't buy these two, if you don't root for these two kids in love, the movie's going to crumble. If you don't buy this relationship, this dynamic, these two people who complete each other in every way, the glue of the movie comes undone. The whole thing's just it's a broken structure put together, and the whole thing's gonna crumble in the gravel.
Yeah, and not only do you buy it in this movie, but this is seriously one of the great unsung movie couples.
It is Angelica Houston. It's amazing. You don't believe what she went through in this movie. She's in, like, they put her in this metal corset, it's like this black metal corset. Because, don't get me wrong, Angelica Houston. I believe in the '90s she was. Don't get me wrong, she was trim in the '90s. She was very slim, and like back then. But still, like, they have to put her into a corset to give her the iconic Morticia shape. Like, any woman would have to be put through the ringer to get the Morticia shape. So she's put in this metal. It's not just a corset; it's a metal corset. It's an uncomfortable corset, and her face, they give her like the Morticia eyes. Like, she has like this string and spirit gum like attached to her to keep her. Like, it's a very uncomfortable, and like the giant fake nails. Like, again, she has to be pretty much like glued into this thing. To become Morticia, and again, like she can't even sit down. Well, she can. I mean, I imagine it has to go through certain lengths to be able to sit down as this character. I have no idea how she did it. But while she's doing that, she's also acting as the other half to this glorious relationship. I mean, Tiki is a relationship that's practically, it's like a Wilson Fisk Vanessa relationship. It's that beautiful. It really is.
I mean, what I love about it is how they complete each other in their eccentricities. You know what I mean? It's like they absolutely 100% embrace the weirdness in the other person.
Yeah, I love how when Angelica Houston brought to the movie, and the main reason she signed on to the movie was that she knew the basically she got the humor, and the humor was very like a dry sense of humor, like all the humor. Morticia, she's the straight woman of the movie. Like, she's this, she's playing it very deadpan, not as deadpan as Wednesday is, and it's a whole different kind of style of the comedy. But the point is, like, Morticia delivers all the jokes. Like, Raul Julia as Gomez is pure passion and energy, and he's the craziness of the family. But the patriarch, he's the responsibility. Yeah, my favorite. Well, sorry, real quick. One of my other favorite things about Gomez is the fact that he's so crazy and bouncing off the walls. He's fencing with his lawyer. He's doing all that, yet he's such a bureaucrat. Like, he believes in the court system. He believes in, like, but Tully, it's not new business. He's all. Just he's such a bureaucrat. It's like you can't budge on any of that. He'll be fencing with his lawyer just for fun. I just love that. While he's doing all that crazy stuff, Morticia, again, she cares for the well-being of the family. Like she's a homemaker, but a homemaker who just kind of takes everything at face value, and she rolls with it. Like she represents that Charles Addams sense of humor, like to a T. There, where she's just like saying, most families are, there are a lot of great jokes. I'm not going to be doing them justice here. But,
one of my favorites is with when she gets the job in the third act as the school teacher, and she's reading Hansel and Gretel, and she's like describing being burned alive. Now, how do you think that would feel, children?
They're doing it from the witch's perspective, which is hilarious.
And Dragon, of course, this was kind of mind blowing to me because as a connoisseur of the nostalgia critic from time to time, one of my favorite videos was the top 11 saddest nostalgic moments, and they pull the clip of the little kids crying. Like that's where that clip comes from.
Right,
from that
right.
Video.
One of my age-old, I've always loved this about the movie. Every time I've just seen like a clip of the movie or playing in reruns, I love the lighting effect on Morticia. Like in almost every scene of the movie, they have this lighting effect on Morticia where only her eyes are like in moonlight in almost every scene of the movie, and I love that was always my favorite little visual touch in all of the Addams movies.
Mm.
So she has that aura about her, like, and she's kind of the mystique, and again, kind of the majority of the glue for the family. She's keeping everything together, and with that, she's always again, like she's never flustered. She's never losing her cool. Like she's always calm, cool, collected. And again, like this is very romantic, very very physical relationship with Gomez, and they understand each other. Where she basically it's whenever the way Raul Julia played is that whenever she speaks French, Gomez goes wild, like the whole "we" and the whole like "cara mia," that whole thing. They go nuts for whenever they speak French. They go nuts. And again, it's like that whole that scene in the bedroom towards the top of it, where it's like, Gomez, last night you were unhinged like a howling wolf, and they're basically saying you scared me, you startled me, and like a moment of pause. And Gomez again, it's like this is Raul Julia staring her down, and it's great. Like he's not beckoning or anything, he's just looking straight at her, and he says, "Do it again." Just that's their relationship in a nutshell. It's what it is. Like even when she's tied up and being tortured, it's just. I think the thing brings again. Bear in mind, I'm a little scattered here. So I love the moment very end of the movie where while she's tied up and everything. This summarizes their relationship. Where to spend. I'm gonna try to get it here. Let me. I just want to look for the line here. It's really good. Essentially, it's a to live without you would be torture. A day without you would be death. It's like that's the relationship right there. It's in a nutshell. It's great.
All right.
Let's talk about the fruits of that love affair. Let's talk about Wednesday and Pugsley.
Yeah, let's get to the Addams children. So let's start with Pugsley first because there's not as much to talk about with him.
Funny story though.
I've always thought that Pugsley's kind of the black sheep of the Addams family.
Well, they've admitted he's the black sheep.
But well, I mean, he's fine, but he's not necessarily pivotal to any of the stories. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's not. He never really has a lot to do. I'm not really a big fan of his personality when it comes down to it.
I disagree.
I don't know. I've always felt that way about Pugsley through every incarnation.
I disagree. I feel Grandma's the black sheep. I have no vested interest in the grandma at all. Like Mama, I don't care about her at all. Why is she in the movie? I never care. I don't like hate her. I just don't care.
Just as irrelevant in the Broadway show, Dragon.
That's what I'm saying. She's just there because we need a crazy witch.
Comes on like, here's a plot point, and that's the reason why she's in the show, is to deliver a plot point.
Exactly. That's the point. Like she's really just not. I view Pugsley though. We have these little moments with Pugsley where I think Pugsley works more as like he's not a plot device, but just he's the role of the son. But it's a good role of the son. Like there's a bit of a bond there. We see Gomez. Like again, I think it mostly relies on the other actors. So I'll give you that. I don't think the kid's doing a bad job. Funny thing is that the kid got the job while his sister was auditioning for Wednesday. He was just kind of there, and they spotted him. Very much like how Russell got casted up. It's like always the sibling who gets brought gets cast. So yeah, I mean, I love like these scenes where like Pugs is trying to be mischievous and like Gomez is giving him a look of like, oh, I'm so proud of you for being mischievous, and Pugs is like taking these road signs and everything. Pugsley doesn't do a lot, but again, he's like there's kind of this jovial little spirit of like
He
potential.
does have a good bonding arc with Fester.
That's the thing. Like he really looks up the like. I like the story of the unspoken story of the men of the Addams family. You get to see like Pugsley is kind of a mixture of Fester and Gomez. Like he's more Fester than Gomez, and Fester isn't around, so it's kind of interesting. Again, I think there's a lot of untapped story potential there. I don't hold it against the movie, but I think it's kind of interesting to point out when you rewatch the movie that yeah, he is in the end he does gravitate a lot towards Fester. I wonder what would have really happened to him had that he was kind of being more of a victim to Wednesday before Fester came along. So that's kind of
Now the interesting thing about the Broadway show in Pugsley Dragon is that the Broadway show is all about when I'm not sure how big the time jump is, but they're all I assume it's weird. It's weird. I wasn't quite sure how to follow the timeline because basically the whole show centers around it's essentially what I want for Incredibles Dragon. It's I want the whole father of the bride situation with Wednesday Addams falling in love and getting married and the family's reaction to it. And Pugsley has a really interesting reaction where he sings this big show-stopping song about like now who's going to be around to torture me. So I don't know, there is that kind of like give and take in their relationship. It's very much it's very much kind of like a loving sibling dynamic, but done through brutal means in some ways.
right. So I guess moving on. Speaking of Wednesday, we should kind of dedicate a little bit of time to her.
I mean, is it a stretch to say that Christina Ricci is like, forget Raul Julia, forget Christopher Lloyd, forget Angelica Houston? Christina Ricci might be the best performance in this movie.
It's a remarkable performance, to say the least. I mean, again, I don't think anything's going to top Raul Julia, but I think she's for a young actor, she's an MVP in this movie.
I mean, talk about a scene stealer, man.
Yeah, I mean, she made the movie, and I think that's Tiki. I think her performance in this movie is why Wednesday gets the B story in Addams Family Values because they loved her so much in this movie. I don't doubt that. And again, Tiki, they loved her so much what she was doing when she spoke up saying like, "Hey, I want Fester to be the real Fester." They made it so. It was Christina Ricci. She was so involved in the process when they were kind of talking about the big Fester reveal. They were kind of leaving it ambiguous, and she said no. We shouldn't cheat the audience. Essentially, what she's intimating is like, let's not cheat the audience. Let's just let's make him the real Fester. Let's not do all this BS. Let's just make it the real Fester. And this says this child speaks wisdom. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make him the real Fester. Here, something like that. But yeah, again, I think what I love about Wednesday is that she, again, you can kind of see the lineage of the Addams family in her, is that she is very much her mother's child. Where, again, Pugsley could be a Gomez who's a little bit more of a Fester, bear in mind, but by the same token, it's like, Morticia's human. Morticia's like, Wednesday's a more deadpan version of Morticia, where Morticia's like, she's still bubbly and happy, but again, just with that kind of that sauciness to her, of like, just like that demure about her, where Wednesday's just like very deadpan, and she's killing with the one-liners, but she has kind of the. I feel she sees the world like her father, but she interacts with the world like her mother. I think that's kind of what we have with Wednesday. I think that was a good. I don't know how intentional that is, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And of course, she has the arc with Fester basically being the one from the start to doubt the legitimacy of that plot.
Again, I think it's another big reason why we have like her making that Fester call, because one, she had a lot of scenes of Christopher Lloyd, and again that whole skepticism arc. Fester's biggest skeptic, eventually getting to his side, especially being chased and everything. Like like her coming to his side is a big moment. And I think that kind of gave him credence. Like, yeah, if anyone's gonna have an opinion on this, that might mean something. It's gonna be Wednesday, who in the movie is the biggest skeptic of Fester. So yeah, we gotta hear this voice on this where it matters.
All right, Dragon. Before we move on to the rest of the list, I kind of forgot a couple of the members of the family that we should get to. First off, kind of just kind of write it off. We've already kind of talked about her, but Granny, probably the least charismatic member of the Addams family.
Oh, we still don't do a lot with her here, but I do like that she was, basically made. I think they made smart choices in changing the relationships of the family here, where Fester is Gomez's brother and Mama is Morticia's mom. It just makes it very, again, it makes things simpler, and I like that choice.
Uh-huh.
The original, she was Gomez's mom or something.
Right, right. I like her design at the very least.
Sure, I mean she's kind of reminds again the whole shtick with Grandma here is that she's very kind of Gertie from Hey Arnold without kind of the without the screen time necessary to really make that click,
Uh-huh. And then, of course, Dragon, how could I forget about, well, first of all, let's briefly touch on Cousin It.
Sure, Cousin I think was realized in live action tremendously well. I mean that's Cousin It. It's right on the money. That's Cousin It. You can't get any better.
I thought Cousin It was perfect in this movie. He has the perfect amount of screen time. He doesn't usurp the plot or take away screen time from any of the other family members, and yet he's memorable. When he's there, he draws attention, and he's the central focus. I thought what they did with him was really good. Dragon, I thought that the way they handled him in the Broadway show was a little bit of a slap in the face because basically they just wheel him out, and it's not even a costume; it's just kind of like a statue, or it's basically kind of just like like a broom handle with the Cousin It hair all over it. That they wheel out on like a wagon, like like kind of mumbling to itself as Act Two begins, and that's the only time we see Cousin It is that one brief cameo before the curtains open on Act Two. I was like, that was it.
You see, Cousin It is like a patented, like you have to use Cousin It, and it's kind of like it's almost like a contractual thing. Where again, Cousin It was big in the TV show, I believe, and of course in the animated series. So it is an iconic member of the Addams family, and that's the thing. I feel like he was forced into this movie. He was forced in this movie in a natural way, and what I loved in the way they worked him in Tiki is that it represents the charm of the Addams of the men of the Addams family, where Tully's wife, Margaret falls in love with it, which is hilarious and ridiculous, and it's delightful. And
then they carry that over into the sequels, right?
They do because they have a kid. They have it's like what or whatever. It's like another pun like that. So it's I think it's like a what because what is that or like something along those lines. The point is, yes, I love but it does serve a story purpose of like showing basically in that whole the family reunion scene, where basically they're all saying goodbye to Fester, and they have like the whole Addams clan, and it basically we justify why these weird members of the Addams family are showing up at the house, but we do show again the charm and that again the hallmark of the whole project, where again this family is bizarre and weird and macabre, yet again they're doing something right, and the rest of us would love to have like as close of a bond and like a working family dynamic and relationship. Like they actually goes through in the third act, like they're kind of brought to a low point, but they're still together and they're still operating as a family. And again, like that speaks to a really good working relationship, despite things that we on the outside world deem as, this doesn't fit our societal, like what we deem proper, like it's improper. So there's something sick and wrong about it. But no, I mean, again, it's a charmer. And I mean, literally, Cousin It is a charmer, like Gomez is, and it's interesting.
All right. Now let's talk about the Alfred of the family. Let's talk about Lurch.
Now here's the tragedy. Here's the travesty. Here's the one. It's a minor thing. It's minor, but it's not. It doesn't kill the movie at all. It's something that kind of occurs because everybody loves. I think everybody has a fondness for Lurch. We all do.
Dragon, I feel like Lurch is one of those fictional characters that gets by just on design alone, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just wish he was in the movie a little bit more. He doesn't have to say anything. Just like show him a little, just show him off a little more. Because here's the thing: Thing does his job for him, and I love Thing, but it kind of makes you kind of think of wait a minute. Literally, the butler is not the butler figure. The Hand is more of a butler figure.
Yeah, well, we'll get to Thing. I'm kind of saving Thing, but
Right, right.
Dragon in the show, I felt like they also had a really good lurch. Like, I feel like instead of being tall and lanky, he's just really, really big in the show. But the show does this really weird thing where in the middle of the third act, like right as the show's coming to a climax, I swear to God, Lurch pulls like a young Frankenstein and just starts monologuing. And it's just like, no, no, what are you doing? And Dragon, that's why I have such kind of a like I don't have the best taste in my mouth over some of the choices that the Addams Family show made. I'm just like, what? What? No. That's the thing, Dragon. I don't want to see Lurch talk at all. And I don't know, man. I think Lurch is like the perfect spice to the Addams Family. You know, he's not a main ingredient, but you sprinkle in just the right amount of him, and he really accompanies it very well.
I think Lurch, when done right, has two lines of dialogue. You rang. That's all. That's all he should really ever say.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, of course. You know what's ironic, Dragon, is that he never does say "you rang" in the show, and yet he has a whole fucking monologue. But
Sure. I mean, yeah, I mean that's the
yeah,
thing. Like Lurch is cool in this, and they use the Barry Sonnenfeld. He likes to use familiar actors. He likes to use a lot of actors that he's worked with, and of course, like Patrick Warburton, and from The Tick, he's in Men in Black 2, and of course in Series of Unfortunate Events, and there's various examples, and they used the Archillian. They used one of the Archillian ambassadors from Men in Black. Remember one of the guys? Like they have the guy with the cat, and then the tall guy that he meets with. The tall guy that he meets with is Lurch.
oh, okay, nice, nice.
Little fun fact there. And again, I mean, Lurch is he's cool, but he's just kind of minimal. And he's just Lurch is doing his job. I just wish he got to do it as much as the other character did. But I mean, he was cool though.
Uh-huh.
All right,
All right, and lastly, let's talk about Thing.
I love
And
Thing, man.
I gotta say, man, this is a movie from 1991, a solid 2 years before the CG revolution of T2 and Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
And the effects on Things still really hold up.
There's only one shot that doesn't hold up for me, just one, where it very much looks like I think it's the only time Thing is CG in the movie, or like early CG, and it shows where like, he's jumping these puddles. Because again, like they have to jump a puddle, and it's like
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it's like the only shot because I was rewatching, getting ready for this, and I was like, yeah, there's something a little off about it. I rewound it. It's like, yeah, there's something. I think that's CG. It has to be. There was this one shot. I love this. One of my favorite gags with Thing. They basically do the Lassie moment, where Thing is run home, and he's basically he runs to the motel, and he's telling Gomez that Morticia's been captured, and he has to do with a Morse code thing with the spoon. Now,
Yeah, he starts out doing sign language, and that doesn't work.
yeah, and of course, I think the fun again, it's one hand sign language. Obviously, or something. It's not easy to do. And Things trying to write something down. Of course, it's not easy either. And I love the fact that Gomez is this is what cracks me up. And this is the thing. He has like an Alfred dynamic with Gomez because again, Gomez like Thing is Gomez's confidant through this whole movie. Again, we had that emotional scene at the top of like where he's telling basically he's expositing dialogue for the audience, but he's telling this to Thing. So I love that we gave Thing like an important role. He's not just there for like the pointing the fingers. Like he's a reason for exposition, but also in Gomez sharing this intimate moment with him, it kind of makes Thing an elevated character in importance, and I love that choice. And it kind of makes these moments pay off later on, like things like telling Gomez, like Gomez, you would listen, you want to, she's in trouble, and Gomez has this ridiculously hilarious line where he says, "I hate it, I can't stand it when you stutter," just because he's doing it in a hurry. Okay, so anyway, then he does the Morse code with the spoon, and the funny thing is there's a spoon behind him that he doesn't use. He digs in the cereal to grab it out. I guess I thought it was funnier or something. Anyway, you can tell when he's doing that, it's literally a hand popping up from under the table. It's a real hand. It's not just like the seed. It's not like the cutoff.
But Dragon, I feel like that's what makes the effect on Thing tick, though, is that
yeah, it is. It's great.
Like it's a the way I take it is that it's a combination of a real hand and then a real hand where the arm's been digitally removed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, basically a combination of like trick shots where the hand's just coming up from different spots, then shots where the arm's digitally removed, and I'm assuming some stop motion is involved as well.
There might be. Here's the thing: if it's not stop motion, it's like a trick photography version of stop motion, where they're using like
Uh-huh.
photographs of a hand in like a stop. Basically, they're kind of animating just pictures of a hand. It may not be like a sculpted model. You could be right though. I'm not sure. Real quick, I love the FedEx thing where he gets a job to support the family, and it's just I just love that scene. We have the jazzy version of the Addams Family score, and he's just throwing the just throwing the FedEx boxes everywhere, and he's again has like just ties a wagon to his wrist essentially. It's oh god, it's quite hilarious. He
But on
brings
a
gloves
technical
with him.
level, man, like the long tracking shots where he's going through the mansion to open the door and everything, like that's some technically really impressive stuff.
Yeah,
Like it holds up even today. Like hell, I would go as far as to say the effects on Thing hold up today better than most modern like blockbuster CGI effects.
yeah.
All right.
And of course, like the gag is like in the TV show, it's just what they did is they had the hand in a box. It's just like always in this. It's the guy with, but it's like a black sleeve, and the guy points at his hand from the box. And then of course, like this is a big budget Addams Family movie. Forget that noise, man. We're gonna have the hand go left and right. It'll walk the place. It's gonna be like a little Lassie moment. We'll
That's what
throw
I
it
think.
after.
Yeah, I feel like they like Sonnenfeld was like intentionally showing off Thing in this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean it shows up. It's very obvious what they're doing there, but it's cool though. It's like man, but it looks great. It does.
uh,
It looks
uh.
great.
All right, so let's get to the antagonists of this movie, unfortunately, because they're kind of the weak links.
Well, with the exception of, well, again, we've kind of neglected one character of the Addams family because he's kind of a little bit of both. So I guess we should start with
Well, let's end on Fester.
him. Okay, we'll build the Fester. So, in terms of our antagonists, we have Tully. I love Tully. So
Well,
Tully,
I really do like the dynamic with Tully and Gomez.
Tully is played by Dan Hedaya. Now, Dan Hedaya, many people recognize as Nick Tortelli from Cheers. He plays he plays Gomez's lawyer, and it's of course Tiki and I we're big proponents of comedic lawyers. We love our comedic lawyers.
Of
Uh,
course.
but Tully here, I just love the ridiculous notion that again, just to do just to do regular business with the ads, basically like the Addams account, they deposit things like the earnings or the spendings of like a quarter of the year. You know, basically pays him into balloons, which is inconvenient in itself. But before he does any of that, the Gomez's version of pleasantries is a jolly old sword fight. And a really well choreographed sword. Here's it's not just like a little mini sword fight. Like, okay, I lose. It's not just that. It's like it's a big involved thing. I love how Tully's gotten into it at this point. He tosses his suitcase and Gomez is catching. Like they're used to this at this point. And it's ridiculous and it's awesome. And Tully's in debt. He owns money. He owes money to loan sharks. He's in debt because I guess the
And Dragon, that's the thing with a lot of these 90 movies that are based on old properties is that we've got to have some sort of antagonist, and the antagonist is usually like, like a loan shark or a business investor or something along those lines. I feel like they did the same thing with the Flintstones movie.
They essentially yes, they did. I'm thinking. I think you and I are both thinking of the sequel to because the sequel had the casino owner who was in debt with some
Oh
thugs.
yeah, you're right. The sequel had like wasn't he like a Rockefeller or something like that?
I I know they. Here's the thing, Tiki. It's over. Bear in mind, it's the Flintstones and the live action movies, folks, because they had like a lot of rock puns. So it's kind of hard to keep them straight. Because I know one of them had that rock. There was Cliff. Cliff was the bad guy in the first one, and Cliff. His last name was either Rockefeller or something, and he turned into concrete in the end. I'm just trying to
Uh-huh.
feel like, well, name after my daughter, Concretia. Anyway, um, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. But regardless, just to circle back to I think what you're getting is even in the first movie, the point is there's always like a money plot of some kind of like I'm going to steal employee funds. That's why there's no vacation. That's why I had to lay off
Again, there's a
all the
reason why we have the whole like we've got to have money meme.
It was very popular '90s trope, and I think it's kind of bred from like the Wall Street era too. I think that's where it's really emanating from. Like it's always like there's always a money motivation. There's always like people are big business being the bad guy.
Uh-huh.
So, but yes, so Tully in itself, has a very '90s motivation. Again, we have some fun things that we do with Tully. In the whole, though, he's not the most original bad guy. What I do love about Tully, here's the thing on a rewatch still holds up about Tully, is that he is very he speaks to what's an issue with the plot of the movie, but I think he's having fun with it. Where he has this crazy idea of like it's an idea so crazy it can only work in a '90s movie. Of like I'm gonna take my loan shark's son, the muscle, the son Gordon. I'm gonna shave his head and pass him off as Fester. And Gomez Addams is such a moron, he'll buy it. It's kind of a hilarious plot. And just that moment, the fact that Tully has as much pull that he does is quite funny. Where in today's movies, he never would get a chance to do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He just kind of sets the plot in motion. I feel like the real antagonist is Gordon's mother, though.
Yes, Gordon's
And
mother.
honestly, Dragon, she might be a solid antagonist, but she's just like really not fun to watch.
Uh, I think basically they're going for kind of it's kind of like a really less impressive kind of like a kind of a psycho dynamic here, where it's the boy trying to impress his mother. It's very much just kind of like he's
It's
subservient.
weak sauce, though.
It's weak sauce, and of course it's always they have that big kind of convoluted thing when we get into what the big reveal is that she found Gordon and she adopted him, and then the idea, by the way, just going into the history movie. I don't know if you missed this like I did when I was before I rewatched the movie. Uh, I assumed that she found Fester as like a baby or something, and I realized, wait a minute, that doesn't work at all because I realized like she found him as a young man, like 25 years ago, which means he'd probably be like I don't know, he'd be like pretty much full grown. She found him and took him in as her own. So
Yeah, Dragon, that's why I was really confused about the ending of the movie, and I needed you, like, I was like, wait a minute, like a cover story that they're saying, or what? That doesn't even make logical sense.
anyway, so but I think here's the thing, I guess they made it is that, or at least the hard sell of it all, is that she's this loan shark who pretends to be this German doctor to basically justify why she's coming to the Addams house and Dr. Pinderschloss. And this whole news to get the Addams money, to steal the Addams money from the vault. Again, very '90s plot. Feels like literally the bad guy from Casper. That's literally what she feels like.
Right, right.
Yeah. The bad guy from Casper, whose name always because it's not Kathleen Turner. It sounds like Kathleen Turner. It could be, but I don't think it is. It's that woman who very reminiscent of Kathleen Turner, who I'm convinced is Tish from Hey Arnold.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is, it's a very '90s plot, and I think she more so than Nick was that and kind of a weak bad guy.
Yeah, yeah.
The Addams family
All
villain.
right.
I think that's just what it boils down. It's really hard to give them bad guys. You have to really kind of dig deep into kind of what's the Ganalpi plot.
All right. Well, at least the villain plot is somewhat connected to our most interesting character here, kind of the MVP of the movie in some ways.
Yes, and that character is Fester. Oh, well, let me say like Raul Julia, Fester. I love that delivery of Raul Julia when he sees Fester at the door. Gomez, and you see the love in Raul Julia's eyes and that big old smile. Just, Fester. It's just so perfect. I love it. Yeah, let's talk about Christopher Lloyd. He's amazing in this movie.
Yeah, this is just a night like Christopher Lloyd was on such a roll here.
Lloyd can do no wrong. I can't think of any bad Christopher Lloyd performance ever. I gotta be frank. I can't think of it. Like,
Um,
even I was frozen today. It's still fun too.
I gotta say, Dragon, the one thing that convolutes Fester is the whole like the villain plot and the mistaken identity and everything like that. Like, it's unfortunate because it just kind of goes to like to quote Page, Dragon, it kind of muddies the waters a little bit.
And Tiki, here's my big response to that. My big response to that, I fully understand that, right, Tiki. I don't, and you're not wrong for having that. And I think that's the nostalgia. That's the big nostalgic pass I give the movie. Is that Fester story? We kind of need. We need to show an arc with Fester. Fester is ordinarily a static character. Fester really is not a character designed to have an arc. He's just designed to be the
In
way
the
he is.
Broadway show, his arc is that he falls in love with the moon and rockets himself to the moon.
I mean, I'll give you. I mean, there's only. Let me rephrase it. There's only so much you can do with an arc with Fester. You can only do something crazy and kind of very. It's a very point A, point B type thing. It's a very simple arc. In this
Uh-huh.
case, doing like an arc of like a family arc with Fester, it's not. I guess it's not an easy thing to do. Would be the better way of putting that. But I feel basically like this is the most like the bad guys. That's just something you have to. The bad guys and the whole like
I
the
mean,
whole
I'll say it, Dragon. I think like this is a better movie than the Addams Family Values.
yeah.
But I like I like Fester's role in the Addams Family Values better, and I even like the antagonist in Addams Family Values better.
Look, I love Joan Cusack as much as the next guy I do. That said, having rewatched Adam's Family Values back to back with this, I got to tell you, I love what we do with Fester far more in this movie. I think it's more competently done. I feel again the arc is more rewarding and again connected in with the rest of the family, seeing how he interacts with them, seeing, and again it brings you back to what the movie's all about through Fester. Fester is us the audience dealing with
Dragon,
this
again,
family.
having watched the Broadway show recently, I'm not sure what I was supposed to take out of Fester. Like he in the Broadway show, he's kind of like the are you familiar with the with You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown at all, Dragon, with that
Yes,
production?
Mark Hamill was in that.
Yes, yes. So you know how Snoopy kind of breaks the fourth wall and talks to the audience and everything?
Yes.
Okay, well, Fester is the same way in the Addams Family show and just bugs the crap out of me.
Also, Mark Hamill was Snoopy.
Well, not in the production that I'm familiar with, but that's a different story.
Sorry, but yes, I see your
Oh,
point
good.
there.
Like, I'm just like, why does Fester have to be this? And I guess that kind of speaks to what you're saying, though, Dragon, because I feel like the Broadway show didn't really know how to use Fester either, but still knew that he was a popular character. And so they were like, okay, let's just make him the fan favorite comic relief character who breaks the fourth wall. Yeah, that'll work. And I don't know. And I was baffled by the I'm in love with the moon subplot. I'm like, what is this? This isn't Princess and the Frog.
And I'll tell you what I think what they did with Fester in that. But again, I have not seen this production, folks. I'm just going to interpret what Tiki's been telling me here. I'm going to just. I think they're just trying to make Fester like Gonzo. I think they're trying to give him like a someday I'll go back there. I think that's kind of what they're trying to do with Fester with that plot line. That's what it sounds like. It's like, okay, let's just give like Fester like a weird Gonzo like plot of us. He just wants these falling in love with something that's very unattainable and he's going to achieve it in some sort of ridiculous manner. I think it's pretty much what they were thinking with that production. That's a 2 cent interpretation right there. Anyway, getting back to this, but Tegan, just to make it related to your point about Fester's role and kind of there's a vague kind of like fourth wall break with the audience, kind of a vague connect to that. I love how Fester is our insight into like Fester is our perspective as an audience. Like, bear in mind, Fester again. Like, we take this menacing, crazy guy who again was like he's a leg breaker for a loan shark, and we take a scary guy and we put him in a house full of people who are genuinely, crazy, which terrified. Again, I love that we take all the menace away from Gordon, and we make him into kind of again we kind of make him into this blank slate audience character where again you think he's all scary and everything, but he's just like he's been out scared by the rest of these guys, and he's very helpless right now, and he's just basically going by the seat of his pants to basically get into that vault and not be found out. And in doing so, he falls in love with the family, and he becomes Fester, and by the end, he learns that he was Fester all the time. And the thing I had with the movie is that I wondered, rewatching it, like again, I got to wonder some of these choices. I wonder if they're instinctual choices because he's Fester in his DNA or not. Or like he makes these choices in the movie that feel like he's being nice to the kids, he's bonding with the children. He and Gomez they're bonding with the whole mamushka, that whole thing.
The Mamushka thing, by the way, was something I was shocked wasn't in the play.
Yeah, the Mushka thing actually went on longer in the movie. They trimmed it down for what they had because it could have gone on forever. All this
And they
ridiculous.
didn't do the theme song in the play either, Dragon.
Sonnenfeld didn't want to do the theme song at all in this movie, but they had in the trailer, and the trailer loved it. Basically, the test audiences in the trailer went gaga for it, so they had to put it in the opening of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So the theme song is kind of a make or break element. I think that's why your theatrical, your experience in the theater didn't go so well with the Addams Family. But anyway, what was I getting at? Oh yes. So with the whole Fester plot there, again, I like that we have these choices that make you feel like, again, is it Fester in his DNA or is it Gordon falling in love with the family? And I think it works either way, but I like that, again, it kind of has its cake and eats it too with Fester's arc with that story, and I kind of like that. And again, I think that plays a lot better than the rehash we have in Values, where, again, don't get me wrong, Christopher Lloyd is just perfect as Fester. It's perfect casting. He just physically transforms in that role. He looks great. He's wearing this great fat suit. He looks perfect in that role, and he's doing so much with his face, and like, again, he has this whole like, oh, I'm about to be found out, and it's basically the what you get out of that, Tiki, is that he's making weird Fester-like choices while he's terrified of being found out, and later on we find out, oh, he's just doing that because he's Fester. He would be doing that all the time. So again, it's kind of this fun, like how much of it's nature versus nurture. It's great.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, it's just kind of I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I liked it.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess one last thing: the cemetery scene. There's this really great scene between Morticia and Fester that I think defines the movie, and I think defines a lot of the great qualities of the movie. Where it's Morticia, basically, there's a suspicion in the family when basically they come home from the auction, like they push the little Chinese dragon finger locking finger cuff, like the fancy finger cuff thing. There was an antique that Fester had, and Gomez is freaking out afterwards, and playing with the train sets, which is something that Gomez does, very iconic. Was that in the play? Did they play with the trains in the?
No, that was not in the play.
Oh man, I heard that. Oh, they do that all the time with Gomez.
The play is I don't know that, like, I'm kind of tempted to do a whole podcast on the play with Monkey eventually, because there's a lot of stuff I need to break down about it.
There's that train scene again. Raul Julia's
the whole idea of Wednesday Addams being in love and getting married is another thing that just doesn't sit well with me.
Mm. Yeah, especially after watching Values, that really doesn't.
I don't know what they were going for. They were basically going for, obviously, like a father of the bride type situation.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. Wednesday Addams is not the character to do that with.
Right. Anyway, so I was seeing that train scene's just hysterical, and against like classic Gomez, he's freaking out, he's ranting and raving. That is not my brother. It's just these crashing trains and everything. It's hilarious. And after that, so again, the point is there's suspicion in the air, there's a lot of doubt, and Morticia faces this head on, and again, without giving, like she's threatening him without threatening him, and just saying that the Addams family is all about, these are our people, and we don't basically saying like we don't want to. Anyone who threatens the family is going to be in grave danger. And thankfully, Fester, if you are who you say you are, otherwise you'll be basically saying you'll be in the cemetery. And that's the to be in Addams is kind of a thing that really means the world to them. So again, I think it's one of Angelica Houston's best scene. I think that's her best scene in that movie, when she's kind of having that really kind of quiet scene with Fester telling him about the Addams heritage and everything. It's a really great scene. Again, it kind of spells like, again, that's kind of a, maybe deep down that kind of reaches the Fester side of him, or that just terrifies Gordon, and later on it pays off. And of course, when they're celebrating in the cemetery, so it's a nice little, it's a really honey of a scene.
All right.
Speaking of the cemetery, the set design is quite great.
Yeah, just one of the big stars that we have to highlight in this movie, besides the the actors themselves, are the set design, the makeup. Just visually, just this movie is stunning to look at.
I love everything that Gomez wears, like the stripe. How can you make a striped suit look that good? And he does. And he has like the fancy coat and everything when he goes to the school play. It's like, oh god, it's like, hey, that's what Pugsley should be striving for, man. When Pugsley grows up, he'll be lucky to look like his father, man.
I love the aesthetic look of Lumpy Addams.
Yeah, Lumpy's a good design. Well, I'm sorry, I'll bring it up a little later, but yeah,
Lumpy's the guy that Wednesday's dancing with at the party.
And Morticia has that bit of Lumpy Addams. You've grown. And he just gives that goofy smile, like, "Aw, shucks." The
uh,
house, the Addams Family house, from what I understand, cost 100 million. Sorry, not 100 million, $100,000.
Now, one of the things they did in the show that I thought was interesting, and I'm guessing this is a callback to either the TV show or even the comic. I'm guessing it actually might be a callback to the comic because the comic appeared in the New Yorker. Is that the house is supposed to be in the middle of Central Park?
I like that idea. I don't buy it, but I like it.
I think it works within the context of the show because in the context of the show, there's just like, there's just all these tourists walking by and they're just really like, like they walk by and they're just like, wait, what? What is going on here? Why is there a house in the middle of this big residential park?
Barry Sonnenfeld, I don't know if it's his usual guy doing the production design on this, because again, this was his first movie, so I don't know if it's a. I think usually he works with. I know Bo Welch worked on Bo Welch. He worked on the new one, Series of Unfortunate Events, and he worked on the Series of Unfortunate Events movie. Barry Sonnenfeld wasn't involved in that, but the original movie. So, but I know he's worked with Bo Welch on Men in Black. So I wonder if this is like Bo Welch's design work. So, I mean, it's big and grandiose. Like we have these great master shots, Tiki, of that. There's that really heartwarming shot of Gomez and Fester hitting golf balls. And they're hitting into the judge's house. I love this poor judge just across the way keeps getting these golf balls like smashed through his windows and everything. It's just that great wide shot. We see the cemetery, we see the house, we see the brothers on the terrace, and it's all in one shot. It's a really hard. I imagine it's a hard shot. And again, it's all practical locations. That's a great shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's excellent design work, and actually the movie got an Oscar nomination for costumes.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. All right. Anything with makeup you want to? Well, again, Lurch, of course, looks really good.
I love Lurch. I love the look of Lurch. That's really him and Fester.
Yes, and again, they made Christopher Lloyd look like Fester Adams. And again, Christopher Lloyd's a tall man, but again, physically he transforms himself. Again, using that fat suit, like the way it's not just he would look like a tall fat guy. What he does is the way he moves around, he turns in the Fester like when the camera rolls. Like that's it. Half of that's performance, but again, that makeup does go the extra mile, like kind of sealing the deal. Like from a distance, that's Fester Adams. Up close, that is Fester Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, I feel like the movie has a very, very consistent, very accurate to the source material aesthetic to it, and it really shows. Like I said, Dragon, I think the blue meth quality that I'm kind of speaking to in terms of Addams Family in this movie, kind of being the best of the IP, like the best the IP has to offer, really is in the aesthetics more than anything else. Like the cast is great, but the aesthetics are really what make it pop. The aesthetic is just like, yeah, like this. Like when I think of the Addams Family, I specifically think of the picture that we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to some pros and cons. Obviously, the aesthetics are in the pros category.
The performances are sublime. I think all the performances are great in this movie. Again, specifically Raul
Mm-hmm.
Julia, Angelica Houston, Christopher Lloyd, and Christina Ricci. Those four are the MVPs of the movie.
Yeah, all
Raul
four
Julia.
of them are just like, and the rest of the cast does a fine job too, but all four of those are just all-star performances right there.
And again, even with our bad guys, again, they're not the most spectacular things, but I mean, like uh, Dan, Dan Hedaya, he's doing a fun job. Like again, he's having fun with the role. I think they're all having a good time. I think it shows. And again, they have this. Again, they balance pathos along with the ridiculous absurdity or like the self awareness about the absurdity. So they're all bringing something different and really special to each of the roles, specifically within the family. So again, they sell the charm of the family. The whole movie sells the charm of what. Again, I do feel, and again, bear in mind, I'm not like a huge Addams Family aficionado or anything. I just mainly have these two movies. That's really what I know, kind of head to toe
Uh-huh.
about these. But um, going from that and just going from a little bit of what I know about the original comic, it feels like a really accurate representation of what those comics were about. So I think they really achieved the goal there. I mean, again, we'll see if this animated movie is going to do like kind of like a Peanuts movie, kind of a tribute to the Addams Family comics. But I got to tell you, I'm kind of satisfied with what this first movie presented with that idea. I
I
think
kind of
that's
agree with you, Dragon. Like, I don't, I think it's going to be very hard to get the same level of, like, pure fan satisfaction that this movie provided.
yeah. Let's see other pros. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. I think the jokes are really on point. Let's see. Oh, God, there's so much.
I mean, like I said, it all comes down to the set design, man. I mean, I can't emphasize it enough. Just the visual look of the movie is killer. Speaking of which, cinematography really on point. Um,
Yes, yes, and again, thanks to very just kind of frazzled, thanks to Barry Sonnenfeld just being an MVP in the chair, directing and cinematography all under the again, he delivered on the movie big time.
as I've already said, I think the effects on Thing look really, really good and with a couple very, very minor brief exceptions, I don't think those effects have aged.
Yeah. Uh Boy, I mean, again, overall, very smart choices were made in. I feel
I feel like
again,
the movie does a really good job at distributing screen time between all the characters.
yeah, like everyone you need to spend time with, they get their time.
Hmm.
And again, they made smart alterations. Again, they didn't just do a fever like they didn't do a slavish adaptation of the TV series. They made smart choices again, going with the comic strip, but even just like drawing very brief homages to the TV series, like Morticia when she's cutting the rose, like the heads off the roses, like that's from the TV series. But again, it's we're visually taking cues from the TV series, like these little Easter eggs all throughout the thing, but we're not letting that get in the way of anything.
Hmm.
And we're taking these great compositions like Barry Sonnenfeld's cameo in the movie is him on the train when Gomez, this giant laughing Gomez head, is like looking at the train. That's another Charles Addams, like a one and done panel strip right there. But again, it's adapted, and we do those all over the place. There's not a lot of those, but when they're done like that's right off the page. But again, tonally, you feel all of that throughout the movie.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, let me. So again, we can spend all day here about the performances too. But I think it's all. Again, the I like that we added the understated emotion of the pathos in the movie. That's the thing I really got to compliment it on from a story structure. Again, we didn't just play with the laughs of okay, they're kind of crazy. They're basically we're showing they live up to the song, but no, there's a little bit more to the song that like there's like you didn't see your brother Gomez hasn't seen his brother in 25 years. Morticia cares about her family. The Addams family. This I think would bridge us in the cons here because there's something that's a pro and a con with this movie, the third act. So, how do you feel about the third act?
I mean, in theory, I don't think it's bad, Dragon. I really don't. And I think it does lead to some really funny situations, specifically the schoolroom scene with Morticia.
Yeah,
But like I can see the funny thing about the third act is that I can kind of see the seeds being sown for Adam's family values in the third act.
yeah.
I'm like, I think Sonnenfeld restrained himself just enough in this movie, but obviously, I don't remember if he directed values,
No,
but
he did. He did. It's him.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
good,
he's
good.
in the movie too. He plays the son of the boy that Wednesday likes in that movie. I'm
Okay,
sorry, he
well,
plays the
well, point,
father of the. Yeah, go on.
well, point being, obviously, with Adam's family values, like that movie feels like a whole movie's worth of this movie's third act, basically.
And I'd agree with that, and I echo your sentiment, Tiki. That I feel we spend just enough time. We don't overstay our welcome. So this is why
We dabble in
I'm
it, and the Adams family being domesticated is a genuinely interesting idea that has comedic potential.
and yeah, and that's
Just
the
want to see a whole movie about that.
exactly. See, that's the pro side of it. We use that idea in the low of lows for the Adams family. We take them out of like what essentially, if the Adams family works as a unit, and basically these are the oddballs. Like society frowns upon these guys, and and again, if we need a symbol of family, it's their house. It's the manor of the Adams family. It's the Adams family house, and they are barred from that house. They are kicked off of that house. They're excommunicated by Fester's hand. Like Fester is the we have that really ham-fisted little reveal, and this thing still bugs me. This is a con, definitely, is where we have this really on the nose conversation at the family reunion where it's like, oh, Fester's back now. You know if he's seeing anyone because Fester, he's the older brother, which means he gets everything. And of course, that spells out the tell, like, oh my God, if we have Fester, which means we get the house, which means we don't.
Yeah, yeah,
It just
yeah.
feels like, again, that feels like a very forced way to get this, but still, Tiki, if you're knowing what the Addams Family is all about, these characters who again are in their own little worlds, and we're the outsiders looking in on them and just kind of making our own judgments. I love where we take the Addams Family into a completely uncharted territory in like the years that they've been around. Like we take them into the outside world and we see how they would interact in our world, and that's an interesting idea. And again, coupled with the whole like it's a low of lows, and we're going to see as Morticia's being the champion, like, hey, we're just going to take it with a grain of salt, guys. We're just going to. She's very optimistic about it, and Gomez, he's not responding well because again, his brother has rejected him, and
Gomez is just fixed on a schedule of depression and reruns.
yes, and the thing again, that's the thing that kills me about Raul Julia because I felt so bad for Gomez. Where again, the system, again, a guy who believes in bureaucracy and he believes in the world, but the world just rejects him, and he has his house taken away from him by the brother that he's waited 25 years for, and everything is crashing down upon him. So Gomez, this character, bounces back so gleefully and so full of life. He's in a depression. He's not living life. He's not like a carpe diem sort of guy anymore. It's just kind of sitting in a chair, as you said. You rerun the rerun. Gilligan the Gilligan, which is a fun nod, by the way, because Gilligan was what their competition was back in the day, and that's why they referenced Gilligan there, because Gilligan was the main competition for the Addams Family. I think it was before the Munsters came along, I think. But yeah, so again, I think it's more justified than it is, and you're absolutely right. We turn to like 50% of the next movie, which was a huge mistake. Like you can only do it for so long, and of course, we get some mileage out of it. And many people have criticized, just to acknowledge the other side of it, to get to more cons here. The other side of it, and I hear this complaint, but I disagree with it for the reasons I've already said. Why I like the third act set piece and putting them in a different spot they are in. Many critics have said that it feels like just we're going from gag to gag, specifically in the third act, like vignette to vignette, like, oh, what's the family doing now that they're out of the house? And
I mean, yeah, we are, but it's that kind of movie, honestly.
and again, I think most of that's done in the third act. And again, we're going into a different, like these guys are in a different position they've been in before. Therefore, why wouldn't we do something like that? So I'm fine with it. But any other kind of cons that stick out to you?
Well, I mean, we already discussed kind of like, would it be cleaner to do Fester just as Fester? I get your point that it does add some stakes to Fester's character, but at the same time, I feel like they could have done it a little less overly convoluted.
Yeah, I mean, I can live with it, but I don't disagree with you. It could have been done better. But I mean, basically, given like the way movies were made there when we were adapting things, basically, anytime we made like a big screen adaptation of a cartoon or of a TV series, we would use a recycled '90s plot, and accepting that, I'm fine with it. But I agree with you. Nowadays we do something much better. We just haven't been fully formed, and I get that.
And don't get me wrong, like the fourth wall breaking, like whimsical magic pixie man who falls in love with the moon from the Broadway show isn't exactly my idea of Fester either. So, we kind of need to. Honestly, Dragon, like I said, I feel like Addams Family Values is kind of my version of Fester.
They do. I just wish it wasn't like. Just wish it wasn't like a whole rehash. Anyway, let's see. So I'm trying to think of any major cons. Oh, real quick, a little fun fact: the Girl Scout, the Girl Scout that they have. Christina Ricci has this hilarious gag, and I just want to bring some because I think you might get a kick out of this. Christina Ricci, she has this. I had to be like an improv line or something because it's so funny, and I think this is what. This Girl Scout comes by as Wednesday and Pugsley are selling lemonade to try to get some money for the family. And it says, if you buy a box of my delicious cookies, I'll buy a glass of lemonade. It says, is it made with real lemons? I only drink things that are made from real lemons. And she says, Wednesday's retort is, are your Girl Scout cookies made with real Girl Scouts? Which is funny, and the fun fact is that girl is the main antagonist. It's the same actress. This main antagonist Wednesday has in the Happy Peppy. It's something Buckner. It was Amanda Buckner, I think is her name in Addams Family Values. Like her rival in Addams Family Values.
Is it really the same actress?
It is. So Tiki, my theory is that they love that scene so much, which makes me think it was improvised. They love that scene so much they brought her back in Addams Family Values. That's my rationale for it. So, God, I mean, that's the thing. Again, basically, you get given the '90s handicap, and there's not really not a lot wrong with the movie. It's kind of the that's kind of the con of it's one of my own cons for the movie. We underrepresent a few characters, maybe like again, like Grandma and Lurch don't get a lot to do, but they're there and they're pretty accurate. So, I mean, it's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, again, I feel like Lurch is not the character where you need a ton to do with him.
Yeah,
Just being there and being a visual presence is enough, and they certainly have enough sight gags with him.
exactly.
So,
So,
and
I mean, yeah.
at least Grandma contributes more than just literally like rolling in and being like, "Here, Pugsley, here's a plot point. Bye bye now."
I guess let me ask you how you feel about this, and this is really all I got left with cons. I guess
Okay.
the scene where the whole Wednesday basically spies Fester, overhears Fester and his mother, overhears Gordon and his mother's plan, and basically learns that Fester, you were a fake, and the whole like Wednesday, they chase Wednesday, and she leaves the premise, and basically we kind of force a reason for the family to go out of the mansion. To look for her. That whole thing. Like, how do you feel about that kind of plot point? A little forced.
I didn't really think it was that forced. I wasn't really thinking about it in the moment, so.
All right. I love again. So I'm just gonna take a moment here before we just get to the next. I guess the final thoughts here. One last thing. One last feather around Julia's cap here. I love this tender again. That scene always gonna stick out to me. Like, yeah, we just kind of literally went off the reservations to literally get out of the house to find Wednesday. But I love that Wednesday's like she's on this tombstone, like kind of she's tucking herself out, and we have Gomez here finds his daughter, like because again, Gomez has really been praising Pugsley the whole movie. It's like without a word of dialogue, he looks at his daughter with such pride, like look at her, so cute, she's tucking herself out, and he carries his daughter. That's a beautiful unspoken on around Joyce. He has my number for this movie, man. I love him.
All right, so final thoughts, Dragon. I think this movie is definitely a nostalgia favorite, but it holds up, man. It really does for the most part. I mean, could the subplot with Fester be a little bit less convoluted? Yes. Could the villain's motivations be a little more interesting? Yes. But at the end of the day, this is just a very, very good looking, well performed, tightly paced, tightly scripted. I mean, it really is, for all intents and purposes, the best interpretation of these characters you're going to get in modern media. I mean, I feel pretty strongly about that, Dragon. I feel like it's miles ahead of the charisma of the TV show. And obviously, Dragon, I haven't seen, I've only seen the one time I've seen the Broadway production, but I think it's much closer to the spirit of the characters than the Broadway production does, and I feel like the Broadway production goes a little off the rails with some stuff. At the end of the day, this is not only one of the it's not only just a really solid movie and a nostalgic classic. Dragon, this is like far and away one of the best TV show to movie adaptations we've ever had.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. It's you know, this movie is better than people give it credit for. It's very well made. It's very
And it's funny, Dragon, because I've talked to a couple people who are like, I like Addams Family Values better, and I feel like that's nostalgia talking.
yeah. It's
Addams Family Values is a fun movie. It has some memorable stuff in it. But at the end of the day, I feel like this movie, just on a fundamental level, represents the characters in a much more pure kind of way.
It does. I mean, this definitely. Again, I used to have more. I had some nostalgia for Adam's Family Values, but again, watching back to back, I mean, the original. I think the original just burns brighter, man. The original just has. Again, it has more heart to it. It has like it knows what it's doing, and I think it's again, it's like the first time you fall in love, sort of thing. It's like it's got it all right there. It's out in front of you. They know exactly what they're going for. It's filled with these strong performances. Again, the pathos is what grabs me about it. Again, it feels just to echo what I've said before. The echoes the comic strip on the big screen. It's a very solid adaptation. There are a few '90s tropes, but again, at the end of the day, the good outweighs the bad many times over. Especially again, just Addams Family Values. Aside from some a fun performance uh, from Joan Cusack. I mean, and again, like Fester, of course, he's always great, but I mean, it's just again, basically, we have performances in the second one, but the plot I think has gotten even worse than this. Like this has the '90s charm to it, but the other one just I know it's still in the '90s. Don't get me wrong. The other one, like the whole baby plot, just completely we do nothing with that, and the whole movie's marketed on that baby. We do nothing with that, so there's a huge problem with that movie, man. Getting back to this, it's a very entertaining film. Raul Julia is delightful, and hence and reasons to rewatch it for me many a time over. I mean, just the movie has like a magic charm to it, and it's great. So I guess before we go here, should we reflect on maybe not every single entry in Haunted Holiday Hijinks? What was our favorite of this year?
I mean, if you've got the list in front of you, Dragon, I wouldn't mind going down the
All right,
list.
let's go down the list quickly. So, Haunted Mansion.
Oh God. Okay. Well, this is a podcast that was a long time coming. Obviously, Dragon. It's funny. You have to see. You have to check out the Offhand Disney podcast that just got released because they have an interview with the Black Knight himself.
Really?
Yeah, like one of the scare actors from the Haunted Mansion. So you've got to check that out. Haunted Mansion. I feel like the problem with the Haunted Mansion podcast was that there were just too many cooks in the kitchen for that one. Like the conversation ended up being a little bit all over the place, but what can you say about the Haunted Mansion? It's like the classic Disney Halloween experience.
Hmm. All right, so after that, we did Hey Arnold with Cousin Arnie.
One of the more unconventional choices, and one of my favorites, Dragon. I'm glad we got around to this one. I think this one is a lot more interesting than some of the other ones we haven't gotten around to, like the Headless Cabbie, for example. Very fun, very memorable. Of course, I love the what is it? The reverse Sid and Gerald.
Yeah, that's still terrifying. I think, look, legitimately, what we've done this year, I think that's the scariest out of all of them we've done. It's just, that's still not right. The whole Gerald and Silly, it's Gerald with Sid's face, and it's not right. God, it's not right. Anyway, moving on from that, because that's just gonna be nightmare fuel in itself. Arthur was solid.
Oh, that was really good. That was really good, Win. It was very nostalgic. I love talking about Arthur. It's one of my favorite shows to do here. Um, not a ton to say about the episode itself, just a nice classic Halloween tale.
Okay, let's see. After Arthur, we had Emperor's New School, which I thought was a lot of fun. Got some Crunk and Yzma action going on there. It was a short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, that one was very economic in our use of time. I actually feel like that one, well, I guess I think the one thing with it is like it's not the movie, but at the same time, it is Patrick Warburton and Eartha Kitt, so it was good for what it was.
Right, Goldbergs. I think Goldbergs is one of my favorites that we did this year. Goldbergs was a lot of fun.
I think Goldberg's really delivered. Yeah, I agree.
All right, then we had Jimmy Neutron, which again was solid enough. Not a lot of substance, but it was direct. It was pretty much like you knew what you're getting.
That was a big nostalgia fest for us.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. So then we had Futurama.
Futurama. This actually turned out to be one of my favorites, Dragon. I thought we had a really good conversation. It was the first time we've kind of dipped our toes into the Matt Groening well. I thought we had a lot of interesting points about the Futurama versus the Simpsons debate. One of my favorite podcasts to record this time around.
Yeah. Let's see. So then was Courage, the Cowardly Dog.
And again, I did think that Sandy really brought it with his knowledge and breaking down the episode. Very thematic. It's kind of a Rorschach test of an episode. Of course, we talked about the Mask episode. Dragon, I'm very happy we got to the Mask. I felt it was kind of a risk to choose the Mask. I don't necessarily think it's the most appropriate for Halloween, but it's an important episode of Courage, and it's one that we really I think I think doing that might be the podcast I'm most proud of this lineup, because it really kind of showed our guts to really delve into some some really dark and very serious, very real world subject matter with that one. I think we handled it with maturity and grace.
Right. Okay, then we tackled Art. We tackled Archie's Weird Mysteries, which I had a lot of fun. I really liked. Archie's Weird Mysteries is one of my favorites that we did this year.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It had a really sweet Jughead arc. Brought back a lot of nostalgia for the show. Made me kind of want to dive into the Riverdale verse again. Give the Riverdale show a second run through.
Yeah. Then we did Alvin the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein.
Again, a lot of nostalgia, but I feel like the movie itself holds up for the most part. And again, I love that third act of Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein, even though they totally sidelined the title character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all that cartoon Alvin stuff is just ridiculous and so meta.
Oh yeah. Let's see. So then there was a Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which could have gone a little better, but it was it was a solid pick.
Yeah, well, that was just that was basically a case of me just not taking notes properly, Dragon. I just had bad notes for that one. I ended up being really lost. I need to look into that show more. I really do, because it is a really, from what I've seen, it is a really funny, solid, very consistent show. And yeah, again, I apologize for the podcast not going great.
Then we're okay. One of I think basically, if I had three favorites, there was Goldberg's, there was Archie, and then there was the next one, which is Scooby Natural. Oh my God,
Scooby Natural was so much fun. Oh my
one of our
god.
best, honestly, for haunted holiday hijinks. It's up there. I think it's
And it was a really good conversation too, because we got really deep into it, like with the philosophy and the world building and like the Matrix quality.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and do it again. Honestly, I think it was great. Okay, then of course we have what we have here today, which was kind of the Addams family.
Family stacks up as like a finale, Dragon. Let me ask you that much. Do you think
Maybe not
finale?
not our most dazzling finale, but it's fine.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's in the same league as like Sleepy Hollow or Young Frankenstein, but I do think it's a seminal work, and to a certain generation it's a classic. And as I said, this is a very iconic horror franchise, and this is the best representation of that franchise, and it's a long running franchise. So at the end of the day, like, really what cemented me to really want to do it was me seeing the show. But me seeing the show, ironically enough, I don't want to come off like I hated the show or anything. I really didn't. But it wasn't what I was expecting it to be. But seeing the show and then seeing this movie, it made me really appreciate, like, yeah, man, that's Addams Family done right. Like, that's Blue Meth Addams Family right there. So I do think that this is like I said, it's not quite in the same vein of, it's certainly not an iconic classic like Sleepy Hollow or Young Frankenstein is, but I do think it's gonna have some shelf space in the finale roster, Dragon. I really do. I just think that next year we really do need to get to Frankenstein itself, because it's been bugging me that we haven't gotten to Frankenstein yet.
Well, I mean, at the very least, we'll cover. Maybe not. I don't know if it'll be a finale, but we'll definitely work.
Oh, it needs to be a finale, my friend.
Right. Well, we'll cross the bridge when we get there. Okay. So.
All right. Okay. Crap. Give me 1 second, Dragon. Kind of sorry. Just want to make sure I get the wording right on this. All right. That's the end of tonight's selection, end of the season, and our spirits grow weary. But they'll be stronger than ever next year as we engage in even more haunted holiday hijinks.
Good show, Tully.